What is courage, G?
Courage is the way that Webster's 1828 defines it. Courage is the quality of mind that allows one to stand firm, right? That's what courage is. It's to stand firm without fear or depression of spirits.
Yeah. And so, okay, like practically, what's that mean? Because that sounds great. A quality of mind that allows one to stand firm without fear of depression of spirits.
Fear or depression.
Fear or depression of spirits. Okay. So what's that like practically? What's that look like?
Yeah, well, it's also different than, the common quote for courage.
Right.
The definition doesn't say that it has to be without fear, but it says that it can be without fear. But courage is it's the quality of mind that's going to allow you to stand firm. And where does courage come from for people, right? In this article that we were talking about for this woman, courage was about her own personal experience.
Right.
I've lived through things that required courage. I've met a lot of people who've had to live with a lot of courage. And you guys have heard me talk about it on this show. Nick's heard it over and over again. Some of the things I learned going just through SEAL training was who are the people who were able to stand firm, right? Because think about courage. I'm not going to say, because we see courage in our minds sometimes. There's in the movies, like courage in the movies is the scene in The Patriot where Mel Gibson is like, everyone's retreating and he picks up the flag and like takes everyone back forward. Right. That's, to me, that in my mind, that's what courage looks like from a Hollywood standpoint. But courage is the quality of mind that allows you to stand firm. So sometimes courage is not quitting. Sometimes courage is just staying in the place, even though it's uncomfortable. And you will not quit. You will choose to stay uncomfortable. Choose to stay uncomfortable when you have a greater purpose to do those things. If the courage is about you, again, I didn't read that article, but from the perspective of what you shared, you're not going to have very much courage when the courage is just what pleases you. Yeah, because sometimes what pleases you will be to run from the circumstance that you're in. Yeah. Right. So if you don't have a purpose to stand firm, you're going to have a hard time standing firm. If your courage comes from being inspired or being motivated or being angry or frustrated in a moment, those things come and go. Yeah. But when your courage comes from a deeper purpose, that's something that's going to last.
Yeah, and so you're touching straight, of course, typical Garrett, he went straight to the bottom of it, which is like, where does it come from? Which is massive. And really, I mean, we boiled it down to two things, and you said it. It's passion/constitution, which is like your emotions, or it's purpose.
Yeah, well, you share the quote from
Joseph Addison.
Yeah, so sometimes in Webster's dictionary, he'll share quotes along with the definition. This is a fantastic quote on courage. Go ahead.
And it's funny because he only puts the last name, and we're like, wait, who's this? Because it's like in 1828. They
I didn't know who this person was. We had to look him up.
Joseph Addison. He was a poet. He was also a member of Parliament in the UK, Tally-ho, or in England, I should say. And he was actually the Secretary of State for 2 years before he died. Okay. So it's a courage that grows from constitution often forsakes a man when he has occasion for it.
Okay, so stop there. Courage that grows from constitution often forsakes a man when he has need for it. Look at constitution in this phrase as constitution as like its emotion or passion. Right. So courage that comes from a feeling often leaves a man when he needs it. Go on.
Yeah, that's so good. Courage which arises from a sense of duty acts in a uniform manner.
All right, so courage that comes from a sense of duty acts in a uniform manner, meaning it won't betray you. It won't leave you in the moment that you need it. The courage that's from a sense of duty, it's with you when you feel like it. It's with you when you don't feel like it. Right. So I love this definition because it talks about the two places that courage can come from. Courage can come from your feelings, right? And courage based on your feelings we've talked about this in a lot of instances before, whether it's around relationship or around money or around fear. Your feelings are an indicator. They're a terrible guide. Right. They'll tell you some of what's happening around you. Doesn't mean you should do what they're telling you to do. It'll mess up your compass. And Addison's saying here that courage can come from your feelings, but you know what? It often leaves you in the moment that you need it most. Or courage can come from a sense of duty. Yeah. Sense of duty is, I was talking to Nick about this before. I've gotten to listen to a few Medal of Honor speeches, and I've listened to a lot of them on YouTube from past Medal of Honor winners. And I've even listened to interviews and people telling their story from a lot of, because even before I was in the military, these were some of the things that inspired me that I felt a calling to be a part of the types of journey that warriors go on. And I've listened to so many of these interviews, and speeches from great Medal of Honor winners. And oftentimes these guys will get asked a question that's like, man, you know, I remember this was from the Afghanistan war. And a guy, basically like his entire team was shot down or had been like hit. He's like the last one he's in the Marines, one from his unit that was alive, and all of their vehicles were disabled and they're like just taking fire. And he would literally like fire from the machine gun on the Humvee, like to try and suppress fire, climb out of the Humvee, run like 100 yards forward, grab a downed combatant with no cover fire. He just was like using the 50 cal to try and suppress him for a moment, get out, sprint, run, go get a guy, bring him back, repeat. And he did it like 7 times in a row. And obviously 50 cal suppress guys for a little bit, not for you to sprint 100 yards and carry somebody back.
No kidding.
And so just constantly running into enemy fire, like forward 100 yards in enemy fire in the open to try and gather people, and did it 7 times. And one of the questions is like, man, like what made you think that you could accomplish that? Like, how did you know that you were going to survive that? And the guy's answer is like, I never thought I could survive that, but that wasn't even a question in my mind. My response was, if I don't go, these guys are all going to die out here.
Right.
I have to.
Yeah,
His courage came from a sense of duty. This is leadership. This is courage. It's answering the question of what's required of me. Right. In that moment, courage was telling him what's required of you is you have to save your team. And so the difference, like if you want to understand courage a little bit, we do this a lot on this podcast, understand what's the opposite.
Right.
Right. What's the opposite of courage is cowardice. Cowardice is self-preservation.
Right.
Cowardice says like, man, I should help those guys, but if I go out there, I'm going to get shot. I'll die too. Right. And I'm not saying that you should just always fling yourself into being a martyr. Many men choose to be courageous in this moment. They feel like this is the only thing I can do. Right. And for him, it was right. No one was coming. Like he was probably going to die out there too. Like in his mind, he's thinking like, I'm surrounded anyways. Like I'm just going to try and save my team. You know, I'm probably going to die here in a few minutes anyways. I'm just going to do the right thing. But cowardice is self-preservation. So it's all about me. Like, man, I should help those guys, but that would be, I'd probably get shot if I got out there. So I should just hang out here behind the Humvee. Versus courage is what's required of me. What does duty say that I need to do? What is the bigger mission? When it's not about you, that's where courage comes from. I experienced this in some of my own life. We've talked about this before as it relates to purpose, where I just said like, man, the reason I can make it through these things is not because I want to, it's because I must. Right. This is a requirement for my purpose. I have to do this. It's not I want to do this. I wasn't just like, man, SEAL training is going to be so fun. It's been the most painful experience of my entire life. I'll remember some of the moments of pain until I'm an old man. Like I wasn't like just excited to throw myself into that crucible. I knew it was what was required of me.